Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Star Citizen economy from some of the original plans from 3 years ago to what we have now, and what's going to be built on and what we're likely to get. But first, quickly, I want to go over all of the currencies in-game and talk a tiny bit about real money purchases, as I suppose this is part of the real economy or the in-game economy. Currency. So at the moment in Alpha, we have Alpha UEC, we have UEC, and we have REC. REC or REC allows you to rent components, ships and weapons. REC is earnable in Arena Commander and you can spend it via the RSI website. AUEC or Alpha UEC is currently in-game and is the currency of the mini persistent universe during the Alpha. You get it via missions and salvaging in the mini PU, and you can only spend it in-game. At the moment, in 2.4.1, you can only use it to buy clothes, aesthetic items, as well as some FPS weapons and gear. This will expand to encompass some more items, ship items, weapons, and possibly ships too in the near future. UEC is the fully fledged in-game currency, which will take over from Alpha UEC at some point. It will totally replace it. But at the moment, as of 2.4.1, you can only spend it on the CIG or RSI website, but it will be eventually used to purchase everything in-game. Alpha UEC will eventually cease to exist and is consistently being wiped back to 0 or 2,750, whatever the default is, as it's basically just for testing. They do expect it to be exploited and that sort of thing, and they kind of encourage that so they can work out ways to stop it being exploited. REC or REC will always be used for Arena Commander and Star Marine. They are games within the game, they're their own virtual world, and REC is the currency for them. But you won't be able to use rented items that you get with REC for use in the persistent universe. UEC, you can buy items and you should be able to use them in Arena Commander and Star Marine as well as the persistent universe. That's a physicalized in-game item. So in addition to these, there's also effectively real money purchases. You can purchase a limited amount of UEC via the website. Even when the game's gone live, they plan to do that. It's one of the ways they plan to fund the game. That and subscriptions for people that want to subscribe. They'll get some extra little bits of content that shouldn't affect your gameplay, but will give you some extra background. So at the moment, subscriptions are used to fund like RTV and ATV and that sort of stuff. So that should expand by the time the game goes live to give those people some extra bits and bobs, possibly some extras for Arena Commander and Star Marine, because that won't affect the persistent universe. Until the games are released, you'll be able to purchase ships as well. Some ships are only available during special events and anniversary sales or concept sales. After the game goes live, only expect to be able to purchase ship packages, possibly a limited amount of ships on offer too, possibly concept sales. Don't know entirely exactly what will go on with that. For those wanting to get a head start or boost with ship purchases for when the game goes live, you may be disappointed. Everything will be obtainable in-game, and you only need to start a ship to jump in and start making a name for yourself. That said, someone starting with a Super Hornet is going to be able to jump straight into harder combat missions from day one. In regards to Arena Commander and Star Marine based stuff, you're going to be able to use REC to rent anything you want anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. That time advantage, though, for me is going to be pretty minimal, and you may be missing out on some of the earlier gameplay by ship jumping, as it were. Ships purchased are available to use in the mini persistent universe and Arena Commander 2, if available, or you'll get a loaner ship of some kind if they're not available, like they haven't been built yet or they're just concepted. Nodes and factories. So we briefly talked about nodes earlier. So nodes represent, they can represent factories, but they could also represent populations. They are areas that require goods and services or whatever to function, and they produce something themselves. So in the example of a population, that would require food, water, medical supplies and construction materials, but would produce workers. Refineries and manufacturing might need workers, raw materials and machinery, but produce CPUs or something like that. So the nodes that are producing, refining and consuming these goods are run by non-player characters as well. As players progress in the game, they may choose to purchase some of these facilities and possibly be able to take on the day-to-day oversight of them, or somehow be able to get hold of them as organisations based on the amount of wealth they have, that sort of stuff, or at least that's the plan. You're going to be able to possibly kind of direct exactly what that makes and why it makes it, and you could also just omit to do anything for a particular reason. Like if you want to drive up prices for a particular good or something, you might choose to not build particular things with your factory. So that's kind of the economy as of Star Citizen Alpha 2.4.1, but nothing like the economy we're going to get. In 2.4.1, we only really have the ability to do a very limited amount of missions, spend our Alpha UEC on a very limited amount of stuff, and we've got none of the economy dynamically being generated really by players and NPCs. So what are we going to get? The economy will be dynamically generated and dynamically driven by players and NPCs that both will affect supply and demand. Missions will be generated by the economy system. Manufacturing or factory nodes on planets will create goods and items for their basic needs, but also for ships and weapons and other nodes. These will all require resources. Missions will be generated to reflect the particular requirements of a factory node, creating items, or a player or NPC could take some raw materials to a factory node that requested those items to complete their mission. If the resources did not get there due to piracy or some other reason, or there's not enough people doing that particular mission, the items that the factory wanted to produce wouldn't be created, or only some of them would be created. In some cases, this could lead to a shortage of a particular item in a planet or system. The dynamic system will try and rectify any issues it can as well. So if resources keep on being plundered on routes by pirates, they would put out missions to kill those pirates, or missions to escort those cargo ships bringing them resources. So it's the economy system itself that effectively generates a lot of these missions. But even raw goods like ores will require processing to recreate goods. There's a system in place and a chain, effectively, that factories will use to create those items that we've just discussed. Demand will be based on player and NPC actions too. So destroy a load of hornets in an area as a pirate, for example, and there's likely to be a lot of factories nearby producing hornet replacements, requiring materials for that, and asking other nodes for those materials. But general long-term fighting in an area will cause demand for ammo, raw materials, missiles, countermeasures, all those kinds of basic needs. The economy and mission system are incredibly interlocked and will affect each other heavily. NPCs, there are approximately 9 NPCs for every 1 player. That's the plan, at least, anyway. This allows for them to have a more stable economy, as players will have a large effect, but less able to exploit vulnerabilities in the economy, and less likely to be able to hold and choke things hostage, but still have some ability to do that. If they're creating a blockade, or they are trying to create a chokehold on a planet and effectively fighting off NPCs and other players, they're still going to be able to do a lot of the stuff they want to do with the economy. But it also helps represent that it's a living, breathing universe with other people in it, with a lot going on. There's a lot going on. There's lots of these NPCs attempting to do missions. And these NPCs aren't just simulated in the cloud. They will actively take missions to deliver goods, hunt pirates. They might even themselves be outlaws. The simulation, therefore, more readily reflects a real population going about their daily business and is a living, breathing thing. There are various nodes then that make up the economy, but they follow general rules. A node will require some form of input or resource. It will be able to store a certain amount of raw materials or resources and items created. It will then be able to output products affected by certain variables. And those can come in all shapes and sizes, as I said, population, refineries, manufacturing, all that sort of stuff. Production resources, though, there will be full production and resource chains. Raw materials get processed, then get made into processed materials, then these could get made into CPUs and high-grade metals, which would in turn be made into machinery and computers, which then might be used to create ships or equipment. There will be a constant supply and demand even if players left the game entirely, as NPCs would effectively run the plants and do missions and create supply and demand themselves. So, will you be able to own your own factory or node? The plan is for players and orgs to be able to take control of production nodes, but this information is based on stuff that's about 3 years old now, and there's not that much info on it. However, I will read it to you and paraphrase it as best I can. The most aggressive entrepreneurs may take over whole sections of a supply chain and may begin producing their own goods for sale on the open market, if they can keep the resources flowing. Be warned that some of the large corporations don't appreciate competition. While you're running your mine, refinery, or factory, you may be interested in more than just the raw materials it needs. If your production node slows because it doesn't have enough workers or their morale is low, you need to help support the local population node or make sure that there is enough entertainment nodes to keep your workers happy and productive. Now, I think that means basically that corporations might take out missions on you to try and slow your progress, whether that's through nefarious means or whether it's through just illegal means, getting traders to prefer them over you or something. But also there might be lots of other nodes like these entertainment nodes on planets that require basically produce areas of morale effectively for populations, and then that will make the population more productive, that sort of stuff. So there might be lots and lots of quite deeper level stuff to owning your own node and factory, or just influencing the economy in general. You could make a population on a planet incredibly happy just to see what it does. Does it make the planet more productive? Does it make them less productive in certain ways and more in others? Does it make them demand more luxury goods? There's loads of cool little things that could happen here that I'm interested in, but it's whether or not it makes it directly into the game. Some of this stuff might be ironed over or it might be too complex, but that's the current thinking and plan at the moment. Anyway, there are also lots of ways to make UEC as a person, as a player, or as I suppose an NPC. There will also be UEC hunting in some way. There's missions such as bounty hunting, escort, any paid contract, or anything that the mission generator basically creates. There'll be cargo runs, there'll be trade, there'll be looting and salvage, piracy, player contracts in general. You could set up a contract to pretty much do anything if another player accepts. There's also that reputation system that's going to be in the game. This is kind of another resource for you to manage. It will help you obtain missions and interact with NPCs. It may also affect your access to trade partners, preferential treatment to special items, ships, that sort of stuff. You might need a particularly high reputation with the Bani to be able to trade with them and also purchase a Bani merchantman, for example. But all those features and missions and nodes all layer onto the economy together to make it a living, breathing system with supply and demand, and creating conflict between players and NPCs that want to make UEC, that need to replace their ships, all that sort of stuff. Everything in the game will need to be created in some way, whether that's just from a factory node being simulated, or whether it's a players needing to drop raw materials and resources off to have those created. All that sort of stuff will take time and effectively UEC. Anyway, that was some information about currencies and the economy that Star Citizen wants to create. Obviously, it's going to go through a lot of evolution and iteration, but based on our feedback, based on player feedback, especially during the alpha. If you want to get involved with the alpha, if you want to influence the sort of stuff that the economy will do, please join in today. We should get some form of more basic economy functions from up and coming patches. This will be like cargo missions, more missions in general, things to buy, items, commodities to trade, a rudimentary trade system, but it's likely that the top level features will come much later, as so much needs to be in place before they piece the important parts of the economy on. And the economy is going to be so integral to help drive the game. It really, really is the backbone of a lot of the sensible NPC mission generation and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, guys, remember, commenting on any of our Star Citizen content during a given month gives you a chance to win a ship. For July, it's a Dragonfly. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help me. Please tell me as well if you're wanting to be some form of trader or industry guru, or wanting to possibly have your own economy node, or if the economy is the thing that does it most about you for Star Citizen, or if you're just going to be a pirate, or you don't give a damn about any of the aspects of the economy at all and just want to shoot stuff. Please tell me that in the comments. That would be really appreciated. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the verse.